Welcome back, dear friends, to the Crimson Academy study of the Kitab-i-Iqan. In this section, we're covering paragraphs 74 through 78 of the Kitab-i-Iqan. This section contains the first part of Baha'u'llah's interpretation on the meaning of the prophecy from Matthew. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. This is from the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 30. The main focus of this section is on the meaning of the term heaven that has been interpreted by Baha'u'llah as the heaven of the will of God. Some key points to note in this section. In the sacred writings, the term heaven indicates loftiness and exaltation. It refers symbolically to the source of the divine station of the manifestations of God, namely the will of God. Baha'u'llah identifies two types of knowledge, divine and satanic. If our hearts were purified from malice, we would understand the meaning of the symbolic terms revealed by the manifestations of God, and would acquire divine knowledge. Baha'u'llah refers to huris as the essences of inner meanings and the hidden knowledge not being accessible to anyone before the revelation of Baha'u'llah. Some Christian scholars have interpreted the prophecy of Matthew regarding the coming of Christ in the clouds of heaven literally. They have concluded that Christ's return would be on a physical cloud from the physical heaven. Baha'u'llah interprets this verse symbolically. The word heaven is a translation of the Arabic word sama. Sama. In paragraphs 74 and 75, Baha'u'llah describes various meanings of the word heaven. The specific meaning of the term heaven in this sacred writing indicates loftiness and exaltation, and symbolically refers to the source of the divine station of the manifestations of God, namely the will of God. This is the heaven in which the Son of Reality appears and manifests the divine attributes. The visible heaven, the sky, represents ultimate greatness and immensity. Hence, in sacred literature, this term has been used symbolically to represent the majesty and greatness of the station of the divine teachers. Through the language of beautiful imagery, Baha'u'llah illustrates the nature and reality of the manifestations of God, and the meaning of the phrase coming in the clouds of heaven in reference to the manifestations of God. He writes, although they are delivered from the womb of their mother, in reality, they have descended from the heaven of the will of God. This is an indication of their divine station and how it differs from their physical and human realities. Though they be dwelling on this earth, yet their true habitations are the retreats of glory in the realms above. Whilst walking amongst mortals, they soar in the heaven of the divine presence. Without feet they tread the path of the Spirit. Without wings they rise onto the exalted heights of divine unity. With every fleeting breath they cover the immensity of space. At every moment traverse the kingdoms of the visible and the invisible. Upon their thrones is written, nothing whatsoever keepeth him from being occupied with any other thing. These above statements describe the nature of the knowledge of the manifestations of God. And on their seats is inscribed, "Verily, his ways differ every day." And friends, that's from the Quran, chapter 55, verse 29. This verse from the Quran means that God, by virtue of his mercy to his creatures, has a different approach for every age. Each of his manifestations brings a new religion, according to the need and necessity of the time. This verse also highlights that each revelation has its own characteristics, teachings, and laws. They are sent forth through the transcendent power of the Ancient of Days, and are raised up by the exalted will of God, the Most Mighty King. In paragraph 75, Baha'u'llah states that the term heaven has been applied to different concepts in the sacred writings. Examples are the heaven of command, the heaven of will, the heaven of the divine purpose, the heaven of divine knowledge, the heaven of certitude, the heaven of utterance, the heaven of revelation, and the heaven of concealment. In paragraph 75, Baha'u'llah states that if we purify our heart from malice, we would understand the meaning of the symbolic terms revealed by the manifestations of God, and would acquire divine knowledge. He explains that divine knowledge is different from the learning common among people. In paragraph 76, he defines two types of knowledge, divine and satanic, and describes the differences between them. A comparison between the characteristics of the two types of knowledge has been summarized earlier. In paragraph 76 through 77, Baha'u'llah quotes some verses from a variety of sources in order to illustrate the nature of the two types of knowledge. They include: knowledge is the most grievous veil between man and his creator. This is a famous Sufi saying mentioned in a number of sources, such as Kimia Sa'adat and Ihya Ulum Iddin. And this is from Ishraq Qabari's Kitáb-i-Iqán in Farsi, volume 2, page 1104. And fear ye God, God will teach you. This is a verse from the Quran, and this is from Al-Baqarah, which is chapter 2, verse 282, stating that if you fear God, He will give you divine knowledge. This verse ends with the statement, "For God hath knowledge of all things." Cling unto the robe of the desire of thy heart, and put thou away all shame. Bid the worldly wise be gone, however great their name. This is a verse from a well-known poem by a famous Egyptian poet, Ibn Fares, who was born in AD 1198. Abdul-Baha has also quoted this poem in some of his tablets. This is also from Ishraq Qabari's in Farsi, volume 3, pages 1187 through 1188. He that treadeth the snow-white path, and followeth in the footsteps of the crimson pillar, shall never attain unto his abode, unless his hands are empty of those worldly things cherished by men. This is one of the Sufi traditions recorded in the work of Qadar Muhyiddin Gilani called Bisharat Khairat, Baha'u'llah has quoted another saying from this book in the 7 Valleys and the 4 Valleys. Again, friends, this is from Ishraq Khawaris, Kitáb-i-Iqán in Farsi, Volume 2, pages 845 through 847. And whom no man nor spirit have touched before. This is a verse from the Quran describing the attributes of Huris in paradise. According to the Quran, the believers will go to the paradise and will meet the most beautiful women called Huris. Islamic clergy have interpreted this verse literally, and they have gone to the extent of carefully defining the height and other characteristics of the Huris. However, as in many other statements of this nature, the concept of Huri in the sacred writings is in reality symbolic. In the context of paragraph 78, Baha'u'llah refers to Huris as divine essences of inner meaning, being the knowledge that has not been accessible to anyone before the revelation of Baha'u'llah. These are, in fact, the promised Huris the true believer will reach when entering the paradise of belief and certitude.